Oh boy, I didn't realize the song was going to end there. What's up, friends? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Thanks for joining me. Today is Micro Monday and Q&A. So let's get caught up on the chat. Hey, that edit is called Fall Flow, and it's on my channel here on YouTube, and I'm dropping the link. The song that's in there fits a lot better, so go check it out, and you can see it in better quality. There you go. There's the link in the chat. Go check it out if you want, if you haven't seen it. Okay, so let's get this over here and move that over there. In the chat, lots of awesome people. RC Ritter, Travis Easterday, Kema FPV, Rixapeta, Chopper FPV, B-Man FPV, RC Ritter again, Richard Frank Nicholas, Kema again, Dronny5 FPV, Smith, Dauntless Richard, BeepTube, Tiago, ToddTube, BeepTube again, Alexander Romanenko, Athix, RC Addict, T-Bird, Mike Bergman, and Crunked. That is the first full screen of people. If you want to hear your name out of my big floppy mouth, you gotta get here early. In the chat here, a bunch of people already know how it's going, If you want to talk directly to me, all you need to do is type CiottiFPV. You can put the @ in front of it. That'll autofill it, but you don't have to. You can just type CiottiFPV. You have to spell it right, and you can't put a space in between Ciotti and FPV. And then it'll light up in orange, as you can see there. And that's my way of knowing that you're talking to me. I try to cover every single time that you guys talk to me and tag me, and that's kind of my thing. If you absolutely want to make 100% sure that I get to your question, you can do a super chat. You don't have to, but it's an option for you. Also, I am doing this full time now, so I could use the support. Everybody has been amazing about just kicking in a little bit of help, and we're getting really, really, really close to me being able to fully do this, as a career and have health insurance and yeah, all those things. So thanks a million times over to everybody that's helped out so far. I'm just going to keep growing this thing so that we can get it to a point where, yeah, it can be my career for the foreseeable future. Come along for the ride with me. If you want to join me on that, CiottiFPV.com has a million ways you can do that. A bunch of affiliate links if you're ever doing an order from Amazon or Get FPV or FPV Crate, Oh My God's website, Banggood, AliExpress. There's a whole bunch on there. All you have to do is go to CiottiFPV.com before you do your order, click the affiliate link button, and that's it. It's going to come up with a product. You don't have to buy that product. Just by clicking that link, you've put my affiliate link into your shopping cart, and I get free money for that. So yeah, I guess there's also nothing to stop you from going over there now and just clicking all those buttons so that all those websites will have my info in the shopping cart, but I don't know how long it saves it, so I don't know if that'll actually work. But it's just an example of how affiliate links work. There's also a link to Fiverr over there. I want to work for you guys and help you guys spec out your builds better, get your builds tuned better. If you like the way that my rigs fly, I can work with you to get your rigs flying exactly the same, pretty much. I've got some video editing stuff over there. A bunch of really cool things going on over on Fiverr. And I'm actually going to be off of Fiverr potentially this week. I've got a website coming called, well, you guys tell me. Should I call it, I own both domains. Should it be The FPV Instructor or should it just be FPV Instructor? Drop it in the chat and I'll eventually see it. Which you think it should be. Do me a favor, type the whole thing so it'll really stand out in the chat. www.thefpvinstructor or www.fpvinstructor.com. Type whichever one makes more sense to you. I think it's going to be FPV Instructor because the is just silly there. But I'd love to hear what you guys think. Yeah, that website is going to be hopefully the way forward for me, in the same way that Joshua has the FPV Know-It-All. I have this passion for coaching and instructing, which is born from 15-ish years in motorsports. Almost 10 of those years were spent as a driving instructor, helping people go faster, safer, and have more fun. And I really do believe in it. I ended up in South Jersey region autocross's program training 11 other instructors, and we had this big, robust team of coaches that would help each other. That was one of the real light bulbs, is that we would force each other, like, we would always kind of have this ego of like, well, no, if I'm good enough to be an instructor, I don't really need instruction. But then every single time that we would force each other to work together and ride along and do ride-alongs and drive each other's cars, we would inevitably learn something that pick up bad habits, right? And one of the easiest ways to break those bad habits is to have somebody else that's really good ride along with you. And that's what I want to do with FPV, and that's what I'm going to do with FPV. There's been a bunch of folks that have worked with me already, and they've had amazing experiences. And yeah, let me prove it to you. How about that? If you don't get your money's worth out of it, ask me for your money back afterwards, and I'll give it to you. But you won't ask for your money back. You'll love it. There's also an Etsy store with a whole bunch of stickers. If you want to support me, but you want to get something cool for it, and you don't have enough stickers in your life, there you go. A whole bunch here. Some really fun designs. That's Clam Man. He says never give up. There's the Collective. If you're a Star Trek, or... Oh... Wait, no, I got that right. Jesus. Star Trek nerd, some holographic stuff, some 90s stuff, all kinds of cool stuff. Just sort of trying to have a million different things that make me a couple dollars here and there. And yeah, then I can keep doing this and bringing you guys all kinds of good content. And all right, enough keeping the roof over my head. Let's talk about FPV. First thing I always do is get caught up on the chat, and that means reading every single comment that I've been tagged in. So here we go. Chomper tagged me, said, hey, so did B-Man, so did Dronny5 Smith. He says, what's up, BattleBot Master? If you're curious about the BattleBots thing, I do have a short edit on the channel where I laugh for 9.5 minutes and tell the BattleBot story in 30 seconds. You're going to love it. It's on the channel. Go look it up. T-Bird saying, hey. Free Range Chicken saying hello. Justin Staber saying... Justin Staber saying, I hear CiottiFPV sent Joshua Bardwell a BattleBot for Amazon. You guys think... so the other day... oh, hey. Forgot about this. Forgot a light. The other day, Joshua forgot to turn on... I hope Joshua's not in here because it'll ruin the surprise. Nobody tell him. Nobody tell him. The other day he forgot to turn on the light over this shoulder. Right, he's got his little workbench over here, and I saw that there was a little space on that workbench. So I went on Amazon and I bought him a lava lamp, a purple and blue lava lamp. So hopefully he'll put that up, and then I'll feel like I did something valuable with my life. I don't know. But I didn't send him a BattleBot. Oh, I also sent him a nut grabber. Because I'm an 8-year-old. If you don't know what a nut grabber is, it's the affiliate link. the affiliate link on CiottiFPV.com for Amazon goes to the nut grabber. And if you don't have a nut grabber, you should go buy one. Not because it makes me money, because I make like 10 cents when you buy a nut grabber, but because I want you to have one in your in your life, because it makes working on micros about 1,000,000 times less frustrating. It just has little, and just things in general. Like, you'll just use this in your life in ways that improve your life. That's the worst thing I've ever said with my face. But yeah, it's just got these little prongy guys that go out, and it can grab stuff that is hard to grab. That's what she said. Did she? Marcel off Axis FPV Robert is here. He says, I guess Joshua Barlow is going to build a robot too. FPV Trucker says, hey. Drone Pilot says, hello. Mike Bergman says, do you think those X-Nova 1804s are too much for a 3-inch Apex? Absolutely not, Mike. The 3-inch Apex actually is heavier than the Acrobrat. And they are the motor for the Acrobrat. So they will be absolutely perfect on the 3-inch Apex. Arguably there is not a better... Fuck arguably. There's not a better motor for the 3-inch Apex. Straight up. So if you're building a 3-inch Apex and you don't put X-Nova 1804 3500 kV motors on it, you're putting the wrong motor on it. I guess unless you're trying to build a long-range 3-inch Apex, which is not a good idea because that's a very heavy frame, so it wouldn't make any sense as a long-range rig. Drone Pilot says hello. Richard says, any plans to look at the T-Motor 2203.5? I kind of want to put them on a 4-inch build. Unfortunately, Richard, they don't... I don't think they offer... I looked at those motors, and I don't think that they make them in a high enough KV. But I'm looking them up again right now. Take you guys along for the ride here. What's a website that's going to have... well, all right, so it looks like 1500 and 2850. So 2850 kV is almost high enough. It's almost high enough, but it's just not. The Brother Hobby VY 2004s are made in 3500 kV, and that's the right kV. So the only negative to the T-Motor, to the Brother Hobbies, is that their T-mount But for me, that's actually a positive because T-mount puts a lot less stress on the motor bell, or on the motor shaft rather, because it's a shorter lever. It limits your prop selection, which I don't love, but it's with micros, durability is a real issue, and anything to improve durability is, yeah, I'm gonna jump all over. So yeah, most of the 2004s are like that. Unfortunately, most of the 2004s are just not being made in a high enough KV. It looks like Tommy is going to be doing a prototype run of the 250 2004s in 3500 kV, which is what I'm waiting for to build this. Because in lots and lots and lots of my testing, there has been zero performance improvement in micros going with 6S over 4S, as long as you can get enough KV on 4S. That's so yeah. I mean, if you want to chase the dragon and go 5S or 6S on a micro, then you can get enough KV from the, well, yeah. No, I just had to second guess myself and think about the 4-inch rig that I built. Yeah, I still, when I had that 4-inch rig built on the GemFan tri-blades, I don't think I scaled those 3500s down. I think I was running them at full stink on 4S, and it flew great. It's one of the few, that and the Acrobrat and the Rip Squeak on the 1504s. Those are the only micros that I've ever built that actually do feel like a 5-inch rig. Like, they've got the prop control, they've got the PID loop performance and the ability to just crush prop wash, and they've got that power curve and that power delivery that is nice and linear, but just keeps going and going and going and gives you that real big hit of horsepower at the top of the throttle. Abraham says, you're already behind, hurry up. Mike Bergman says, thank you. Dustin Gable says, do you have any info on when Flow State will be out? I just saw the trailer earlier and didn't even know about it. I don't, Dustin. What I do know is that SOG, who is, that's Christian, who's working on, or not Christian, James, who's working on it, he posts on Instagram like every other day with updates. He is working his ass off on it. It looks like, so hold on. I think I can say this. James, I'm sorry if this was... I'm 99% sure that I can say this. It looks... He originally was thinking about doing it as a 2-hour documentary. His previous documentary that was on Netflix about the young girl that sailed around the world, tried to sail around the world alone, like, that was on Netflix. Like, that was a legit... Like, it's looking like there's going to be an FPV documentary on Netflix that, by some absolutely asinine twist of fate, I'm in. But it's looking like he's got too much, and he's going to be breaking it up into an episodic kind of thing, which could be even cooler. I don't know, but yeah. Flow State's going to be amazing. No real info as to when it's going to be out, but it's coming, and James is doing staggeringly good work on it. So yeah, go check out the just type like Flow State documentary into YouTube here. You'll find the trailer, and then support him on Instagram here. Let me real quick find SOG on Instagram so that you guys can go. Because yeah, the more of us that are just like, keep going, brother, keep going, the big, think of like a huge project that you've worked on in your life, right? There are probably times where you were just like, oh my god, this is completely impossible, this is never gonna get done. So yeah, let's encourage James as much as we can here to keep him charging forward, because he's doing something that's totally amazing. So there you go. In the chat is a link. Go throw the man a follow, and maybe shoot him a message and be like, dude, you're doing awesome. Cannot wait to see this documentary. Support people that are doing cool stuff. That's something that Patreon has actually taught me. Patreon has kind of shown me the value of throwing a couple dollars people's way that are doing cool stuff, and I've gotten to see from you guys telling me like, dude, make a Patreon, we want to support you. You guys have shown me the value of that as well, and it means a lot. I know that $3 a month doesn't sound like a lot, but when a whole bunch of people do it, and just the fact that like people are doing that is pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and it really means a lot, and it really it's the closest thing I have to a paycheck, so it's a big deal. Those of you guys that are on there, I appreciate it. Those of you that can't be on there for whatever reason, totally fine. There are other ways to support me, or just you hanging out is all I've ever asked for. Most of it's weird, me making this my career it wasn't the plan. Like, it was kind of specifically not the plan, but you guys just kept pushing me, and here we are, and I'm very, very lucky to have had you guys, and to still have you guys, and it's super awesome, and each one of you should give yourself one of those, because it's a big deal. B-Man says, yo, I caught the fly formation shit for the first time last night. It looks like fun. You're going to be doing that every Sunday. I don't know if I'm going to do it every Sunday, B-Man, because how about this? If you guys want me to do it every Sunday, I'll do it every Sunday, because you guys are my boss, right? Like, the support that you guys give me is my paycheck. So, and thus far, a bunch of you guys have said, dude, the Velocidrone formation flying stuff is amazing. So if you guys keep saying that, I would be nuts to not keep doing it. So tell me if you think it's awesome. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Sunday, I live stream at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, and I usually call it Sim Sundays because I'm a slave to alliteration. And I had this thought a couple weeks ago that it would be super fun to pack the room, to pack the Velocidrone room with as many people as possible, and try to figure out how we can practice lead follow, which is very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. Like we think that when we fly around we're very solid and stable, but we're not. We're drifting all over the place all the time, and because of that, it makes lead follow incredibly difficult. So I just had this random thought, well, like let's practice, because these are the things that I think about, because I'm just like coaching / instructor minded. And we did it 2 Sundays ago, and it was an absolute blast. And then we did it again yesterday, and it was super fun. We did it for like here's something that's kind of funny. So we did it for the previous Sunday, we did it for like a half an hour. Yesterday we did it for an hour and a half. Like, the chat was kind of slow. I got caught up on chat pretty quick, and I was like, well, shit, let's just go. So we all went in there, and we always fill the room up, and there's a bunch of spectators, but I'm the cameraman, right, because I'm running the stream. So I stay in it the whole time. Well, like, so I'm sitting here focusing as hard as I can, because it's a very different style of flying. Like, I'm trying to be a cameraman for 7 virtual quads ripping down this main street in the city's map, and I'm trying to make cool angles and not crash, and so we did that for an hour and a half, and every like 20, 25, 30 minutes I would say, like, okay, everybody that's been flying, hop out, and then everybody that's been spectating can jump in. And we did that like 3 or 4 times, so that hopefully everybody got a chance to fly. But the whole time I'm in there, like, on the sticks, like like trying to, like, focusing as hard as I possibly. You get into the simulator and fly for an hour and a half straight, and tell me if you're complete. I was wiped at the end of yesterday's stream. Like, I didn't think I was gonna make it to 2 hours yesterday, and I ended up making it just barely over 2 hours. But I've never felt that before. I've never felt such an exhaustion from flying before. So that was super interesting. But yeah, super, super fun. If you want to see what I'm on about, just go to yesterday's stream and take a look. and maybe this coming Sunday, join us. If you guys want to practice doing that, feel free to so over the link to my Discord page on CiottiFPV.com, of course, and if you join Patreon, you get special Discord privileges. If you guys really enjoyed that and you don't want to wait until Sunday to do it again, go into the Discord page and get people together and like maybe, I don't know, 8 o'clock every night or something like that. Figure it out. Like, let's... and if there's enough people interested, like, just let me know, and I can do a little bit more to kind of organize that. I can't commit to being in there every night, but if you guys make like a room at 8 o'clock every night or something like that called formation flying, yeah, maybe we can make something out of that. Let me know if enough of you guys want to do that. I'll help organize it a little bit more. Maybe I'll make an entire text channel on the Discord about that to make. We'll figure it out. But I need to know from you guys that you want that and you're gonna actually use that. Yeah, and we'll do that. Don Ladd says, just come to say hi and ask about the battlebots. Off to bed early, start in the morning. Don's probably already gone, but thanks for hanging. Thanks for coming, Don. CiottiFPV says, what motor and prop combo do you recommend for the 3-inch Apex? We already talked about that. Great question, though. Xnova 1804 with... we didn't talk about props, though. Xnova 1804 with the T-mount. There's 2 different versions of that motor. You want the T-mount version of that motor. Why am I saying T-mount? The M5 nut version of that motor, the M5 big shaft version of that motor, because then you can run the T-motor 3140 propeller. I know that comes as a surprise, but that 3-inch Apex frame is very heavy. It's too heavy, to be honest with you guys, for a 3-inch rig. It's probably the right weight for a 4-inch rig. We don't really know yet. 4-inch is still pretty... 4-inch isn't new, but making a good flying 4-inch rig is new. But yeah, if you're going to build the 3-inch Apex, it's going to be a basher. Really, the only reason to build that over the Acrobrat, because it's actually heavier than the Acrobrat. So the only reason to pick the Apex over the Acrobrat is if you want to build a basher, because the arms on the 3-inch Apex are 4 millimeters thick. And because it's going to be a basher, you need to have a propeller that's going to be a basher propeller. And there are no T-mount 3-inch propellers that are basher propellers. They just don't exist. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. 3-inch propeller, we don't have many great options in 3-inch propellers. But the T-motor 3140 is a basher 3-inch propeller. But it's only M5 nut. I would love it if GemFan made a version of that 3140. I think GemFan makes that propeller for T-motor anyway. I would love for them to make a T-mount version of that propeller, but they don't. So at the moment, yeah, that's gonna be the best combo for you. Alexander says, how far behind in the stream are you as of now? Feel happy, and YouTube did the thing, scrolled me all the way to the bottom, scrolling back up to try to find where I was. There it is. How far behind in the stream are you as of now? Feel happy, not sad about it. Make everyone wait because you're impatient. That was at 10:04. It is now 10:28. I'm going to go into Micro Machines guy motor mouth mode and get caught up on chat as quickly as I can. Ready? I've had limited success doing this over the last couple weeks, but it has worked. Those of you that have been around have gotten to see me get caught up on the chat. All right, ready? Okay. Marcel says the robot better be ready for next week. Drone Pilot says, just purchased new TX16X Max Red Carbon Edition. Really like it so far. Everything's quite impressive so far. Installed the Crosswire 2 watt. Realized I needed a bigger battery. Zach Farbman says, hi, I'm planning on my first 5-inch Acro build and I'm set on a FETech KISS stack, but I'm stuck on which motors to get. Size KV for 6S. I'm looking for a quick and agile throttle response. Zachary, my favorite 5-inch motor at the moment is the T-Motor F40 Pro 4, and I think, oh, you're not using Betaflight, so if you change your mind and you go Betaflight, which in my opinion is a better flight firmware, you can use their motor scaling option, and you can buy 2400 kV, the 2400 kV version of those motors, and then you can motor scale them down in Betaflight. If you're going to stay with FETech, you would need to buy the 1950 kV version of those motors, which is fine. It just limits you in that you can't scale your motor power up and down. So yeah, there you go. T-Motor F40 Pro 4 is the best motor that I've found that mixes durability with lightweight. The only lighter motor that I know of, well, there are some other, all of the other lighter motors, such as the Steel Stout V3s, are a lot less fragile in my and other people that I trust's experience. So yeah, the F40 Pro 4s are basically, yeah, the just the lightest motor with any amount of durability in my experience. Seth Patton says, the example always has the @ so it's a test that I won't see. Nope, we got that. Athix says, CiottiFPV made a new friend, down lads, LOL. Jeremy Hawkins says, are you going to Rampage? Hey, let's talk about that. So, I don't think this is public info yet, but I am gonna just put it out there because it's a really big deal. I've signed up for Rampage as a volunteer. I'm signed up for 3 shifts driving the golf carts to transport people around. 2 of those 3 shifts I'm going to be driving people to the Micro Mayhem spot, because I just thought that would kind of make sense, right? Like, hey, I'm going to go to the Micro spot. Oh my god, it's the CiottiFPV, the Micro King. I signed up for those, and then I went to and then a few days later I went to the Rampage website and I read when I signed up for those, there's a little comment field, and in the comment field I said, hey, please let me know if masks are going to be required. I really don't feel comfortable doing this unless everybody getting on the little golf cart is going to be masked up. Didn't hear back from those comments, so a few days later I went onto the Rampage website and I looked, and they have a section of their website talking about COVID precautions. And I read through it, and it basically said that due to the fact that, and this is, unfortunately I'm not surprised because I lived in South Carolina for a little while and I know how insane their government is, but unbelievably, South Carolina is not requiring masks at the moment. And on the Rampage website, it says that because of that, it doesn't specifically say, like, we won't be requiring masks, but the wording does not say we will be requiring masks. So I sent an email to the event organizer, and I said, hey, Stacy, I would love to go to this event, but until masks are required, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to. And Stacy just got back to me today and said masks are going to be required in all public areas, and they've even gone a step further, and I think they're working together with, I'm sure that they're working together with Nevin from FPV Exchange, and they're going to, the current plan is to have 2 trained doctors on site giving, and everybody that comes on site will have to take a rapid test. And I replied back and said, if that's the case, I am 100% in. So I'm actually, as long as masks are required, I'm in. Because as long as there are masks, I can just manage the way that I am and make sure that I don't get this shit. Like, not touch surfaces and keep hand sanitizer and all the things that we should all be doing still. I know it sucks, but let's just keep doing it so that once this is gone, there are as few people missing, right, as possible, because people are dying. Just because you haven't had someone close to you die doesn't mean that other people haven't, like me. So yeah, I'll be there, and unless something changes on that front, I will be there. and it's going to be awesome. I was at the other Rampage, and it was phenomenal, and I still need to get my edit done from it. Looks like there's a mix of FPV instructor versus the FPV instructor. So I guess I'll just make the decision. I had a feeling that it wouldn't be like a windfall of everybody saying one or the other, but I'll figure it out. Remy Tim is here. What's up, Daniel? Travis Easterday with a $5 super chat for the battlebot. All right, I'll add it. Thanks for the support, Travis. $259 out of $1 million because $1 million is pretty much I think what it'll cost to build a battlebot. Oh look, I have 4 zeros in a row. That's perfect. Tristan Stoneman says start taking Dogecoin. It's the future. We'll see. Tiago says, can I get my money back and spend it again on you? No. Drone Pilot says, if someone searched look for an FPV instructor, you naturally get the hit shorter name. If you have then you reduce the search percentage because no one will search the FPV instructor at CiottiFPV. Very true, Drone Pilot. That's one of the reasons that I was gravitating towards dropping the. I worked in search engine optimization as a project manager for a little bit long ago in my career. And yeah, that's how the algorithms work. So keep that in mind, guys. Yeah, the word the has no value whatsoever to an algorithm, right? It only has value to us in making it sound better, but I don't even think it sounds better. Scroll. Mike Bergman says that I'm the man. Thank you, Mike. Mark A says, love the content, but can you do some 5-inch related content soon, please? I have a good amount of 5-inch related content. Mark, what are you looking for, man? I just did the Moon Goat. I've got a ton of glide stuff. I mean, all of my edits are 5-inch. I've actually been... I'm interested in what you're looking for because I've actually, from the feeling I get from most people is they want me to do more micro stuff. I've been pretty hot and heavy on 5-inch stuff last year, the year before. So yeah, you're actually the first person that's asked for more 5-inch related stuff, which interests me. So tell me more. What are you looking for in addition to what I've already been doing? Jason Crabtree says, figured out what happened to my RunCam hybrid component, got knocked off. $50 for a new board, but hoping someone in the collective can snap me a picture of the component so I can just replace. Jason, shoot me a message. I have like 3 or 4 of those RunCam hybrid boards. I will take a macro picture for you for whatever you need. So collective, you guys are off the hook. I got this one. Jason, you just need to remind me because by the end of these streams, my brain is shot. Flying Ram says, your cool nut grabber is exactly the same as what Arnold Schwarzenegger used to reach up his nose. That's true. To remove the chip in the movie Total Recall. Flying Ram, careful, you're dating yourself by knowing that movie. Isn't that sad? We're an older audience in here though. There's I bet you there aren't many people in my audience here that don't know Total Recall, but it makes me sad that there are lots of people in this hobby that don't know what Total Recall is. But hey, I'm a partial boomer, so I'm not a boomer at all. I just think it's a funny word. Test Pilot DRB says, what 1504s are your go-tos? The only good 1504 that I've found, Test Pilot, is the Brother Hobby. It's actually a 1504 and a half. But yeah, Brother Hobby VY 1504 and a half. That's really the only one to get. There are only like 4 or 5 or 6 micro motors that run smooth and are durable. And the Brother Hobby 1504s are one of them. So Athix says Netflix famous. Hopefully, man. Dustin Gable says can't wait. Either way, full doc or miniseries, I'm game. Yeah, me too, man. Rick Cepeda says I got JHE MCU 411 AIO with 25 amp ESC 1404 6000 kV motors, RunCam Nano 2, and VTX for the Tiny Trainer build. You think everything will be okay? That is almost identical to the one that I built, and then ended up selling to T-Bird. So yeah, it's gonna rip, man. That's Yeah, you went with those 1404 6000s, and that's so all the tiny trainers that you see out there that are on 1404 like 4000s, 4500s, those tiny trainers are kind of specifically built for the spec series. And they don't make good freestyle rigs, in my opinion. They just don't have the power. The tiny trainer, what you need to remember about the tiny trainer is it was built to replicate the flying experience of the DRL Racer. And the DRL Racer is a big, horrendously fat, horrendously underpowered, sloppy shit. So going with the standard, like, tiny trainer build that you see most people go with is going to leave you with something very different than you're used to. It's going to be an underpowered thing, but that's the point, right? If you're looking to build a tiny trainer for freestyle, more like what I think if you're here watching me, you probably fly like, you're going to need a bunch more KV than that, especially if you're going to stay with 3S. And the tiny trainer with 4S is not really a great idea, in my opinion. So, yeah, Rick, you picked the right motors, man. 6,000 kV is really the minimum, in my opinion, for 3S. So that thing's going to be really good, man. Chomper FPV says, what's your ideal all-up weight for a freestyle 5-inch carrying a Hero 8? It would be, so my Session 5 builds are, I try to keep them right around 605. And then the Hero 8, I haven't done this in a while. I haven't weighed the Hero 8 in a while. Do I have a session around? Hero 8 is on the scale. Let me see if I can find this. Nah, I know what the session weighs. The session weighs 80-something grams. Hero 8 is 100... My God, what a fat ass. 123 grams, so it's an extra 40 grams, so 640-ish. Yeah, 640-ish. Wait, no. Yeah, 640 is my ideal weight. For carrying around a Hero 8. The both of my drift edits on the channel here were carrying around Hero cameras, which are the first drift video was a Hero 7, but that weighs very similar to what the Hero 8 weighs. So yeah, if you want to see what that all up weight looks like with my rigs, look up either one of those drift edits. Scroll. Some deleted messages. Clickbait. That one says people bitch made. I think Fly was being an idiot over on Joshua's channel. It looks like Marcel timed him out for 300 seconds. Thanks, bud. Abraham says, you're not a slave. You're an ambassador of alliteration. It was right there. Nice, Abra. Respect. Scroll. Tiago says... YouTube did the thing. Tiago says, going to email Velocidrone to check if possible to get more people flying. Awesome idea, Tiago. Awesome idea. Drone Pilot says, formation flying is difficult. A friend of mine is a full-size plane pilot instructor and also did his formation training, had to log up to 1,000 hours or some ridiculous amount before learning. Yeah, I guess it makes sense, right? In the air. Hey, Mike Duran is here. What's up, Mike? Mike works with GemFan, who is my newest sponsor. Yeah, I guess it makes sense, right? When you're flying in the air, you can move up, down, left. You can slide left and right, and you can yaw left and right? So you've got like 6 degrees of insanity to sort of try to manage with somebody else. We take it for granted, right? Because we go out and we drive down the street and we're able to sit in traffic and not fucking bash into each other. But in a car, it's just much different, right? Because you only really have this and that, and the steering wheel is nice and big, right? So you have a lot of sensitivity on the big steering wheel. You're in the car, so your ass tells you a lot of things, right? You're in the motorsport world, we sometimes call it our butt dyno. That gives you tactile feedback, G-force feedback, so that you can have a little bit more fine control. When we're flying, we just have our eyeballs, right? We only have our eyes, and there's latency from sticks to glass. So yeah, it just makes it a lot harder. Now that I say that, what's interesting is formation flying with a quad. is actually harder than formation flying in an actual aircraft, because in an aircraft you're in it, so you get that G-force. You can use the G-force. So we're in that one ridiculously specific way, we're better than fighter pilots, guys. It's the biggest eye roll I could manage. Mike Bergman says, so I should not build a Micro Apex with a Vista then. Too heavy? LOL. It depends on what you want, Mike. If you want a 3-inch basher, the Micro Apex is the one, man. The 4mm arms, like that's it. Like that's the one. You're gonna get the flight. All right, so yeah, Fly is being a complete dumbass. So let's report, and let's go with harassment or bullying, and this is harassing me, and we will report him. Please contact your local authorities. Awesome. All right, see you later, Fly. So yeah, I think we talked about the Micro Apex enough. Great frame. It's just a little heavy for a 3-inch frame. For a 4-inch frame, though, I hadn't really I thought about it a little bit as a 4-inch frame. I'm gonna try the QAV-S Mini or Micro first as a 4-inch frame. I sent two of the arms to CiottiFPV, and it looks like they got lost in the mail. So I'm gonna send them. We're gonna give it another couple days, and then I'm gonna send him these other two arms. If you don't know who CiottiFPV is, go look him up. He's another guy making amazing content. TWEETFPV. Go show the man some love. Super cool guy too. There are 4-inch arms coming for this, and the 4-inch front arms are dead catted. And I'm gonna put a Caddx Tarsier in here and see what kind of HD footage I can get out of it. But yeah, the I think that Micro Apex is gonna be a better deal with a 4-inch setup, mainly because of the weight. The BQE Ripsqueak Micro, in my opinion, is a much better weight for a 3-inch propeller, and you end up at an all-up weight of 200 to 210 grams, even if you put HD on board with a RunCam hybrid, and even if you're hauling around an Insta360 Go. So yeah, for a 3-inch rig, I think this is a much better, this frame is a much more sane weight. It's like 28 grams, I think, for the frame. And whereas like the 3-inch Micro Apex is like 58 grams, which yeah is too much unless you're going for the flight characteristics of an Acrobrat, which is essentially. So when you look at the surface area, the total surface area of the propellers, and you compare that to the all-up weight of the rig, that ratio is essentially what comes into play every time you jump off the throttle. So when you go to 0 throttle, the all-up weight of the rig and whatever amount of momentum that it has at the moment, the propellers become a parachute in a way, right? Because they're disturbing the air. The air is not moving; it's moving into the air, and so the body of the rig, but more importantly, the prop surface area, or disc loading, whatever the hell you want to call it. And when you look at that ratio with a 5-inch rig, which we've all sort of decided is the right ratio, right? Because 5-inch rigs just fly magical and better. This all-up weight to prop size is much closer in feel to that ratio than if you add another 30-40 grams and you get up to an all-up weight of like 260, 270, 280. Some people like that feeling, though. It's a feeling of when you're up in the air and you jump off the throttle, it falls to the ground faster. It has less float, is one of the easiest ways to describe that. But it also affects the throw. It also affects when you go up over a tree and you invert and jump off the throttle and you want to cover ground upside down and skim down the back of that tree, it affects that as well. And when you add weight to that, it falls into the tree rather than gliding over the branches in like a nice natural way. So yeah, there you go. Marcel says, you gonna ban this? Yeah, we got it. Thanks, Marcel. Forevermore says, what's up from Delaware, buddy? Very cool. How's the battlebot thing coming? As well as it ever has. FPV Trucker says, which KV on the Xnova 1804s for the 3-inch Apex? So in terms of KV, as we've been talking about recently, don't really think about KV. If you're on Betaflight, don't even think about KV anymore. Just buy the highest KV motor and then scale it in the PID tab. Being able to do that is a really big deal. Being able to, on the fly, go into your OSD and change the amount of power that your quad has. I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, but the first time you do it, it is a big-ass deal. And the only way to do that is to buy the highest KV of any motor. So yeah, that definitely applies to the Xnova 1804s. The highest KV is 3500 KV. Unfortunately, 3500 KV is not quite enough. You'll end up running that at 100%, and it's great at 100%. I wish they were 4000 kV so that I could motor scale them down a little bit and just have a little bit of adjustability. For example, you go and you fly a spot that's really small and technical, you can turn your KV down, you can turn your motor output power down a little bit, and that's going to give you more sensitivity on the throttle, and that's going to make it literally easier to fly at a really tight technical spot. I actually don't recommend that you do that, though, because it's also going to change your muscle memory. The more popular use, the better use, I should say, for motor scaling is that you go to a spot that's really big, and the amount of power that you're used to is just not quite enough. Being able to turn your power up a little bit, and I wouldn't recommend that you change it by 20%. I would recommend you move your power up in that situation by like 5 or maybe 10%, because then it's not as drastic of a change. But what it'll do for you in a bigger location is it'll allow you to kind of turn that, it'll allow you to shrink that location down, right? Because you can just cover more ground because you have more power. And the first time that I did that, I was flying with Joshua here in Atlanta, and it was just like, I'd been doing the motor scaling previous to that, and I believed in it, and it was amazing, and it was great. But in that moment that I did it, like a light bulb went off, and just how big of a deal it is to be able to do that just like kind of clicked. And yeah, from that moment on, I mentioned it even more obnoxiously. But yeah, it's a really, really big deal, and it's something that we have available to us. Why wouldn't we use it? Guillermo says, are you going to do a FETEC small all-in-one build? Probably not, Guillermo. I flew KISS exclusively for a couple months back in 2019, and they haven't changed anything about it since then. So doing a FETEC build doesn't really make any sense. If they change something, if they add anything to the software to kind of get with the times, feed forward or iTerm relax or anti-gravity or any number of things that Betaflight has added in the last couple of years, then absolutely I'll dive back into FETEC. But my experience with KISS was that, and it is basically like Betaflight 3.2 from way back in the day, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but there have been a number of really sort of big deal additions to Betaflight since 2019, since 2018, that for my specific flying style make my footage look a lot better. KISS is a firmware that I find you have to fly around it. And it's not just me. Like there are plenty of so there's, I guess the example that comes to mind most is Vic, who flies KISS exclusively, put out a video about bounce back and how to get around bounce back. And the video, once he gets into it, is you can't move your stick sharply. Like you have to fix bounce back with your fingers. Like there's nothing that you can do in the software to fix bounce back because it doesn't have iTerm relax. And I have a couple of moves. The most obvious one is, you guys got to see it in the intro, in that video where I flew past that tree and snapped and did like a completely flat. So it's you coordinate your sticks, yaw and roll, and you snap them really hard. And as you're going by an object, you just wham, and the rig rotates back, and it looks at and you can fade away from the object, and it just has this incredibly cool look. And you literally can't do that on any other flight firmware than Betaflight, because none of the other flight firmwares have iTerm relax. And without iTerm relax, when you do that motion, it creates a big hit of bounce back. And I think that bounce back looks terrible. Some people don't mind bounce back. A lot of people don't even notice bounce back. But I do. And I don't think it looks professional, and I don't think it looks good. And I don't want to have to sacrifice a movement with the camera that looks really cool, in my opinion, for any positives that there might be to KISS, which I just didn't find. I didn't find any positives. I thought that it flew different for sure, but I didn't think that it flew better in any way. And that's a very important thing, is to be able to differentiate different from better. And I think that when you look at your footage, that's where you really get to see better versus different, right? When you're flying it, you get to feel this different thing, and different feels good, right? Am I right, guys? Oh, no. Don't. No. Yeah, so, yeah, there you go. No real plans, unless they add some of these amazing new features that are available to us in flight software. CiottiFPV says, since you're talking about 4-inch, I started flying a Holy Bro Shuriken 180 4-inch. That bad boy was a tank. Yeah, it's funny. There's 4-inch has been around forever, but we've never really done anything with it. And I'm glad that we are now. Guillermo says, get a KN95 mask. I've got one. It is ready to go. It was actually sent to me by Pyrodrone at some point last year. They were putting masks in all of their shipments, and yeah, I just tucked that N95 away, and it'll be my my Rampage mask. B-Man says, spread it out, 5-inch here, micro there, no need to pigeonhole into just one. Micros are good for the winter. Yeah, that's B-Man, that's one of the reasons why I've been kind of running pretty hard on Tiny Whoops, because it's been Tiny Whoop season. But yeah, I think that, what are you guys saying 2 weeks for? Is there a date in Total Recall that happens 2 weeks from now? I bet you that's what's going on. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I always feel like I'm doing too much with 5-inch stuff. It just feels a lot like people kind of come to me for the micro stuff. But if you guys want more 5-inch stuff, just tell me, and I would love to do that. 5-inch stuff is easier to build, it flies better, it's easier to maintain, it tends to be more durable, it's more of like a known quantity. 5-inch stuff is way easier for me, if I'm completely honest. But 5-inch stuff is a much bigger pond, right? Like, I am a small fish in a big pond when it comes to 5-inch stuff. I'm a much bigger fish in a much smaller pond when it comes to micro stuff. But again, you guys are my boss, so you tell me what you want, and I'm gonna do it. I forgot that I need to be going Micro Machines guy levels of speed. Here we go. Dauntless was out flying today and found a Tiny Hawk prop, a clue. There are others out there. That's crazy. Finding somebody else's propeller. Tuner Taxi says, what's up? Family Guyver says, is the GoPro Hero 8 better than the Hero 7? Absolutely, Family Guyver. If nothing else, the Hero 8 allows you to use Real Steady Go, which is a really, really phenomenal piece of software. Unfortunately, the lens is not replaceable on the Hero 8, but usually by the time you smash a Hero, in my experience, in blowing up 7 or 8 Hero 7s, most of the time when I would smash the lens, the whole camera would be done. The Heroes are not all that durable. So yeah, the Hero 8, I've actually not broken a Hero 8 yet, so I've also not flown it as much as I flew the 7s, but yeah, Hero 8 is better than the Hero 7. Hero 8 is actually the camera that the pro level production houses prefer over the Hero 9. When Real Brothers Media messaged me about the gig here in Atlanta, and I said, I don't have a Hero 9 yet, but I can run out and get one if you need me to. They said, no, we prefer the Hero 8. It's been working better for us in Real Steady and just produces better results. And I was like, wow, okay, that's crazy. Michael Scott Rue is here. Athix says, I'm super excited about my HD3s coming. I think Athix is the one that messaged me that he scored a set of them used and cheap. That's pretty awesome. To just build on that for 3 seconds, in my opinion, if you're going to buy analog, a used set of HD3s is the best deal at the moment. They're not the best goggles, but they're the best deal. The HDO2s are better, but they're a lot more expensive. And I just don't think it makes sense to spend that much money on analog at the current time. So yeah, used HD3s, in my opinion, are the way to go if you have to buy an analog goggle on February 8th of 2021. Orga A says, I think the difference is that you make a mistake in a jet, you die, no turtle mode. Yeah, very true, Orga. Abraham says the difference in flying formation FPV and what the dude was talking about is that they were probably flying those RC planes for, yeah. So that's next level ridiculous. Is flying RC planes in formation line of sight. Come on, I mean, like, I didn't think anybody could actually do that, but if there's anybody that can actually do that. Abraham says, shit, didn't mean to ask CiottiFPV there. That's okay. Tuner Taxi says, best 16x16 stack, 3-inch build, and go. Tuner Taxi, I think there's only like 2 16x16 stack options. I would not recommend either one of them because 16x16 is a nightmare to build. It is just too small. It's also kind of untested, right? Because there's only a couple of them available. But if you have to do a 16x16 build, I'm willing to bet that the Talon 16x16 stack is going to be the best one. But I recommend 20x20 for sure over 16x16. If nothing else, the weight savings for 16x16 versus 20x20 is minimal. It is nowhere near enough of a weight savings to warrant the tremendous pain in the ass that the 16x16 builds are when you actually have to get in there and work on them. Dauntless FPV says, you and USPS are cursed. That's 2 things lost in the mail. Yeah, it happens. Mike, I ship a lot of stuff, though. So Mike Duran says, it's our pleasure. CiottiFPV and GemFan are a perfect match. That's super cool of you to say, Mike. Thank you, brother. Tuner Taxi FPV. And like, outside of this, but I've always gravitated towards GemFan propellers because they've always been better balanced. Micro propellers have a real tendency to not be balanced well, and GemFan has risen to the top time and time and time again over the last 4+ years with micro propellers being balanced out of the bag. And that's a really big deal. So yeah, even before, like, they just make an amazing product, regardless of the fact that I'm now sponsored by them. I've been saying this forever. If you want, go back. Our sponsorship is pretty recent, so any streams before like the last 2 or so months, yeah, if you don't believe me, go look it up. Tuner Taxi says Armatan Tadpole 4mm thick main plate is a basher. I don't typically love the Armatan frames because they don't orient the carbon fiber weave in the correct direction. But it sounds like Tuner Taxi has bashed a 4mm thick Tadpole, and that's awesome. I'm willing to bet that frame is a basher and has been strong for Tuner Taxi, because 4mm thick carbon on a micro is a lot. So even with the carbon fiber not oriented properly, just by the fact that it's 4mm carbon, it's going to be strong, and that's totally valid. It's going to be a little bit heavy. So, like, for example, I would prefer the Ripsqueak Micro, which is going to be lighter because it only has to use 3mm carbon, because they have oriented it in the correct direction. But yeah, if there's something about the Armatan Tadpole design that you like better, it sounds like all you need to do is get the 4mm version, and you can have your durability cake and eat it too. Daltz says, welcome to Walmart, I love you. A bird told me a half week for that thing. 1 or 2 weeks for that thing, the thing you know. Very cool. Very, very cool. Some of you will be able to that have been around will know what we're talking about. Droidy Droid says, motor scaling on a Switch, better yet, a slider, get on it. I actually already have that, Droidy Droid. Joshua Bardwell has a video. It's not motor scaling, though. It's throttle limiting. Up on the you know how the if you have a Tyrannus, you have those dials that you never know what to use them for. Every time I've seen a good use for them, I've actually done it. So my well, for you guys, my dial on the left side is volume, is volume on the speaker in my QX7, and then for you guys it's on this side. On the right side of my transmitter, it's a throttle scale, and Joshua has a video on that. That is throttle scaling, though. That is not motor scaling. Motor scaling is adjustable in the OSD. Motor scaling will scale your PID loop as well as the throttle. Throttle scaling is basically just telling the transmitter to not output. Like, so the transmitter outputs 0 to 100, right? The throttle scaling knob in Joshua's video, and this is still, it's perfectly valid. This is actually a really good thing. Allows you to just tell the transmitter as you turn it down, hey, just don't send 100, send 99, send 98, send 97, send 96 when I'm at the top of the throttle, which is actually a better situation. It's a better situation to have throttle scaling on a knob on your transmitter than motor scaling. The proper way to do this technically there's a little bit of a dance with motor scaling and throttle scaling. This is pretty high level stuff. For 99% of people, just use the motor scaling. You're only ever going to move the motor scaling like 5% or 10%. It is going to increase your PIDs up and down a little bit, so it's going to make your tune either more cranked or a little bit sloppier, but that 5% that you're going to move it is not going to have enough of an effect to make your tune like bad. I've been doing this for 6+ months, and this has been true 100% of the time. But the perfect scenario is you build a rig, let's say it's 2400 kV on 6S, like what I've been doing. You take it out on the maiden stock PIDs, you put the throttle scaling to something that's like sane, right? So in that situation, for me, I would go 70%. You go out, you fly it, and and all you do initially is figure out how much power you want. So you go out and you fly a battery, you ignore the tune, you just jam the throttle, you go to your favorite spots where you fly most often, you fly it there, and you just dial that percentage in. And so maybe you end up at 78%. Maybe 78% is the exact amount of power that you want out of that quad. Then you do your tune and you lock in your PIDs. So now what you've essentially done is you've picked a KV in a way, right? Like that motor scale has chosen a KV for you, and then you lock your tune in. And now, well, actually, so I guess the best thing to do would be to go a little bit higher, because then that allows you to throttle scale down a little bit. Yeah. So see, this is where this like correct way of doing it sort of becomes a pain in the ass, and which is why I've not really used the throttle scaling. I've just been using the motor scaling, and it's been just working awesome. But again, technically speaking, the absolute best way to do it, I think, would then be, instead of 78%, it would be to go to like let's say 80%, or maybe even 85%, and then to throttle scale down. The real pain in the ass is that when you throttle scale down on your transmitter and then you fly one of your other rigs, you forget to turn it back up. But again, we're just talking about like absolute best case scenario here, right? So best case scenario would be you then lock your PIDs into that 85%, a little bit too high number, and then you use the throttle scaling to pick your amount of horsepower. The other thing that's going to do is it's going to make you change that value all the time, and that's not good. You again, using the motor scaling, it's buried in the OSD, it's not on a knob, you're much less likely to go change it, and you're just more likely to fly around it, which is kind of, it's hard. There's no like best way of doing it. There's just different ways of doing it, and using motor scaling is the easiest, most realistic way of kind of doing it. But I think you guys see what I'm getting at there, right? Because the motor scaling scales the PID loop up and down. So by nailing down your motor scaling up front and then tuning to that motor scale, your PID loop is gonna be locked in, and it's not gonna change. And then you use your throttle scaling just to adjust the amount of total throttle that you do. But that's a pain, like we've been just saying, that's a pain in the ass to do it that way, and I guarantee you're going to forget to turn that knob up and down. I've actually not used my throttle scaling knob in a long time, because every single time I use that knob, I forget to turn it back up to full power, and then the next time I go out and fly, I spend half the day flying going, what the fuck is wrong with all my quads? Everything feels like it has no power. It's just not like, I don't know, I guess if you did it enough, you could get used to it, but I don't think you should do that, because it's going to kill your muscle memory. You're going to constantly have a different amount of horsepower at a certain stick position with your fingers, and that's not a good thing. You want to try to have all your stuff as similar as possible so that you can build the muscle memory, and avoid having to relearn every time you go out to fly. Tiago says, I think the FETEC secret sauce is their ESC. From what Steele Davis says, though, the FETEC ESCs are not as good as the KISS ESCs, or the Flyduino ESCs. So, yeah, I mean, just by that, and when I built the KISS rig in 2019, it was on Steele's preferred ESCs. So, yeah. Broken Prop FPV says, just came in, is that the Source 1 V4? It is Broken Prop. I couldn't believe it was only $25, and I thought, well, for $25, I can probably do a couple of videos, do a little build on it, and make more than $25 in super chats in doing so. So as a business, I decided to buy it. It's gonna break the arms. Like, the arms are only 4 millimeters, and they're really thin. So for me, I can all but guarantee this is a complete fail. So I'm doing it for you guys. And like, breaking an arm should be fine. I'm actually a big fan of breaking arms rather than motors, rather than the other things that can break, base plates. It's one of the things that the Glide does better than any other frame I've found, is that it breaks the arm at the right point. It breaks the arm at the right level of force. If you have an arm that's stronger than the Glide arm, what I find is that the weak point becomes the motor, and you end up blowing up a lot more $25 motors than $6 or $7 arms. And arms are very easy to replace in the field. Motors are a complete pain in the ass to replace in the field. So I'm totally down for broken arms, but what I can pretty much guarantee is that this is going to break arms too early. And that I don't want. Like, I want to try to save the motor, but I don't want to have a rig that breaks arms all the time. And the Glide has been the best mix of those two things that I've found in 3+ years of flying 5-inch rigs. It's hard to do the Micro Machines talk fast thing when you guys ask such good questions that really deserve thorough answers. And I don't really have... I mean, this is Micro Monday, but I just kind of picked that as a alliteration. I was going to swap the motors out on this, but whatever. I can do that on my time. I mean, you guys watching me solder 12 motor leads on doesn't have nearly as much value, in my opinion, as properly answering your guys' questions, thoughtfully answering your guys' questions. So if you're antsy for me to work on the 3-inch rig, just maybe keep that in mind. I think my value to you guys is, thoughtfully answering really good questions. Hey, if you want me to not just talk the whole stream, stop asking such goddamn good questions. You lovely people, you. Dingles says, how do you feel about lowering throttle through the controller's input tab instead of through Betaflight? Interesting. Dingles was thinking what I was thinking, lowering the throttle weight and matching the offset specifically. So yeah, I think we already talked about that, Dingles, but if you have any kind of like a follow-up question, just tag me again. B-Man says, saw UAV Tech video and he was talking about changing the Betaflight rates to actual and trying that on low settings for smoothness around the center. What's your take on that? B-Man, you've been around long enough. I scream and yell about how beautiful actual rates are. I feel like too much. Like I kind of catch myself sometimes. As soon as 4.2 came out, I tried the actual rates because the regular Betaflight rates have never been able to give me the amount of softness in the center of the stick that I've wanted. It's why I used to run such weird Betaflight rates. Like in Betaflight, I would run a oh wow, it's been so long that I don't even know what it's called anymore. What's the... Jesus. RC rate, yeah. So I when I was on the regular Betaflight rates, I would run an RC rate of 0.5 just to try to get the center, because the RC rate was the only thing that would control the center. Unfortunately, it would control the entire rate profile, but it was the only of the three that would have any impact on the center stick. So I used to run 0.5 or 0.6, and then I would run 0 expo because that would flatten out the middle of the curve actually too much, and then I would have to run crazy super rate to get any amount of full stick rotation. Actual rates were a huge win for me because the center sensitivity number, you can drop it all the way down to 10, and that makes the center of the stick beautifully smooth. And what that does for you is it eliminates the on the physical gimbal, there's a point dead center where one spring unloads and the other spring starts to load up, and what happens is it creates a notch, and I was never happy, and I could always see in my footage when I would cross that center point because there was a little bit of you could see the notch where it would go from one side to the other, and the actual rates have softened that center up enough where in my footage now I can perfectly smoothly transition from one to the other, and it doesn't read as a mistake. In fairness, I'm nuts and I look for like the most insanely small little tiny things in my footage to improve. So most people, when I talk about that, are just like, what are you saying? So unless you're a complete perfectionist and lunatic like me, you might never notice that. But I did notice it, and the actual rates have been, amazing for me. Hold on, buddy. I gotta scroll. Don't run away, please. Chat likes cats. The internet likes cats. If you haven't used actual rates yet, get on it. They're a big deal. Dauntless says, I just got filters for the filter spot on my Pyrodrone mask. I ordered 4 more. Nice. Phenomenon Awesome says 7-inch stuff. Maniac FPV says, you sexy son of a bitch, how you doing? Forevermore says, up arrows to never too much 5-inch stuff. Send a frame to me first for a sick paint job. I've done the I have a little bit of painting knowledge, but the paint comes off so fast from these things. Dalt with a $4.99 super chat and a little pear guy that says, how's it doing? Thank you, Dalton. Much appreciated. Dalt is sort of FPV famous for making the little floater motors, among some other really cool products, and now he's working for Newbie and doing an awesome job. So if you've had a customer service issue with Newbie, Dalton's been the one that's helped you out. He's kind of Newbie had a rough sort of end to 2020, and Dalton is one of the people who kind of has turned it around for them. So yeah, we need to be forever grateful to that dude. He's a really good fit for that company. Newbie being a really good company. Metal Dirtskin says Hero 9 is 159 grams. That explains why my glide is so heavy all up. That's one of the reasons why I refuse to do the Hero 9. Is it's just, I mean, the Hero 8 is too heavy. The Hero 9 is just crazy. And the screen on the front just has no value for me. Stop, please. Sick of Life says, hey, can you tell my buddy PJ the Miata is the best fun for the money? End this argument for us. PJ, I've got about 20 years of being into cars as a hobby. 15 of those into motorsports, 10 of those really heavily into autocross and track days and mountain runs, and there is the Miata is basically the old school Mini of America. We didn't get Mini 1300s, and unfortunately, and basically if you're a car guy in England, which England kind of has the highest percentage of car guys really that actually like to turn the steering wheel, which is really where cars become super fun. The general consensus is like you're not a true car guy unless you've owned an old school Mini in England. The Miata is that for America, and if you're a car guy and you haven't owned a Miata, you're only hurting yourself. It will completely change your concept of what 4 wheels, seats, and a steering wheel can do. Because it is just so much lighter, and lightweight fixes everything. Lightweight fixes durability, it fixes handling, it fixes power to weight ratio. It is the ultimate just game changer. Look at any race car. It's the reason why race cars are completely gutted. Lightweight fixes everything, and for a few $1,000s to be able to buy a car that weighs 2,100 pounds, you're only hurting yourself if you don't do that. It's a really big deal. I came from Mustangs and a Ford family, and I'd driven a bunch of Miata. Miata was a car that 100% of the time when I would get out of that car as an instructor, I would start walking away and I would look back at it and go, oh my God, I have to get one of those. And then when I got one, it was even better. Go get one. You can go buy one and then sell it for what you paid. Why wouldn't you? You're only hurting yourself if you don't. Even if you're not a car guy, go buy a Miata. It'll turn you into a car guy. They really are that good. One of the things that I still really appreciate about motorsports and cars in general is like the tactile feedback that you get through your fingers and through your ass, which we just don't get in FPV. And it's a really organic, like natural connection that you get, and Mazda does a better job at that than pretty much anybody other than the exotic manufacturers, of creating a car that involves you as a driver, and it's a pretty cool thing, especially like if you throw a few $1,000s at a Miata into coilovers, big sway bars, big wheels and tires. It's just a whole different thing, and it just yeah. But one of the internal mottos for Mazda is Shinbai Itai, which means of horse and rider, essentially saying that their philosophy is to make a car as involving and as organic as riding a horse, right? If you're riding a horse, you feel every little motion because it's a living thing, and you're surrounded by air in the same ways of like riding a motorcycle, right? People that ride motorcycles love the immersion in the world. You've got no roof, you've got no dash, you're just hurtling through space at 50 miles an hour or whatever. And yeah, Mazda does a better job at that than anybody else with a budget. Sick of Life says the iFlight 16x16 stack isn't too terrible. That was the stack that I put in the Wemix frame that got run over on its maiden, and it was a nightmare to solder up because it was just so infinitesimally small. But it did work. It did fly for half a battery before it got tragically run over. Dauntless gives a thumbs up to HD3s. Athix says I flew airplanes line of sight before quads. B-Man says the Gep RC6. Oh, I'm sorry. I put the Gep RC16 stack in. 16x16 stack in. Sorry, it wasn't the iFlight. Okay, so I guess there's at least three different 16x16 stack options: iFlight, Gep RC, and Talon. I bet you the Talon is the best though, because the Talon stuff is really, really good. But B-Man says Gep RC 16x16 is good, although their proprietary pin sets are a pain in the ass. I'm not even going to get into that, but I'm with you, B-Man. Drone Pilot says, have you seen the 39-gram Eachine Cinefun 1S75? I have not. I've seen some footage and was well impressed with its indoor capabilities. 4 minutes of flight video is just amazing. Watched it on a 90-inch TV. Oh, wait, no, I did see that. I saw Nick Burns flying that around. And yeah, it looked good. It also looked pretty heavy, which, I mean, it is. 39 grams is a lot. Yeah, it looked a little heavy. I'm still, with Tiny Whoops, I still like this is it for me. Like if I want HD, I can get proper HD from the Insta360 Go up here, or if I want to rip with a Tiny Whoop, really it's still SD. I don't know if we're ever gonna have proper HD on something that's this small and light. A lightweight Tiny Whoop on brushless like 0802 25,000s is just mega. And yeah, the weight of, you basically add I think it's 11 or 12 grams in order to go HD on board with a Tiny Whoop, and that's just too much. It's just too much of a sacrifice in performance, and the Tiny Whoops are already really lacking on power to weight ratio. So yeah, for what it was in Nick Burns' video, it was great, but I didn't. It just, the footage just looked too heavy for me, and this new crop of brushless 0802s at a high KV have kind of opened my eyes to how wildly fun Tiny Whoops can be now that we've gotten over this brushed nonsense. So yeah, but go check out Nick Burns' video with that, because it's damn good. Mike Duran dares me to watch dares you guys to watch every single CiottiFPV and find any reference to other props. Forevermore says, chucked a couple dollars to your BattleBot fund in PayPal. Hey, thanks Forevermore. If you guys don't want YouTube to take 30%, which I'm okay with them taking because they provide me with this amazing platform that I've used to create this career, you can go to CiottiFPV.com and there's a PayPal button down at the bottom. And yeah, just if you do that, call it out like Forevermore did, because I wanna give you guys a shout out and a thank you, because it really means a lot to me that you guys are willing to send your hard-earned money my way. It's a big deal, and I never want to take it for granted. Sean Moore sent $4.20, the weed number, and we're gonna add that to the gear fund here. I'm just gonna round it because F doing math. 263. There we go. We are just a fraction of the way to the $1 million that we would need to build a BattleBot. Thank you, brother. Very cool of you. Much appreciated on the support. CMYK FPV is here. He says, what's up? Dropping that motor scaling knowledge. Very true. CMYK and I are working together on some cool logo stuff. If you need graphic design done, CMYK is a ninja. Hit him up. He is taking work. Phenomenon Awesome says, how do we change the motor scaling with the OSD? So you go into... it's in miscellaneous PP. So you open up your OSD and you go to the top option. I've been saying this wrong for a while. Sorry. In previous streams, I said it wasn't the top option. It was the second option down. I was wrong. But I would also say it's somewhere in there. Just look through all the menus. But it's the top. Open up your OSD. Top option, which is where you go to adjust your PIDs and your rates. Rates where we almost always go. And then it's like the second or third one down. It says MISC PP, miscellaneous PP. And here's the thing. That opens up a window with a full screen of options. You got to scroll all the way down. And when you hit the bottom, it opens up, it pages down, and it opens up another screen filled with stuff. And it's like the third or fourth option there. It's called like Motor SCL or something like that. MTR SCL, I think. You'll see it in there. Yeah, that's how you get to it. Tiago says, I think it's possible. I think it's possible too from the motor scaling percentage to get the perfect KV for you. Do you think it's possible from the motor scaling percentage to get the perfect KV for your build? Absolutely, Tiago. So much so that I've got two completely identical 5-inch rigs. Well, there's one of them. The other one of them is somewhere else. But I've got two completely identical 5-inch builds. One of them is on 2400 kV motors. One of them is on 1950 kV motors. They are motor scaled to the point where I cannot tell the difference between those two rigs. I have blind tested this. I have just like myself tested it many times over the last 6 months, and they are completely identical. The run times are the same. The flight feel is the same. I can't tell a difference when I'm flying either one of those rigs. So yeah, absolutely. Great question. Forevermore says, put on an alarm when you turn on your remote. True. And somebody even sent me a link to how to do that. But again, I decided to not do that because I try very hard to not change the amount of power. Like, changing the amount of power is an absolute last resort for me, because it messes up the muscle memory. The biggest thing for me, and the biggest thing that I've noticed that has improved my flying, and what tends to happen once you've been flying for a long time and you've gotten better and better and better, or just doing anything, right? Like, you guys know this, that you start a new thing and you get a lot better really quickly, and because you find all this like low-hanging fruit, basically, right? Like easy improvements, but then it tapers off and you plateau, right? And like you're getting better, and now you start like, I'm getting a little bit better, and you get to this point where you're like, am I even getting better anymore? And that will typically stay like forever, right? Because you've taken all the low-hanging fruit, like all the easy improvements, and now you got to really reach, and there's the improvements that you're going to make are going to be much smaller and much more fine, and much more subtle. And when that happened to me, I'm going to beat the cat for a second. Hold on, because he's being a bad boy. Stop meowing, bad boy. Yeah, when I hit that plateau after 3 years of flying 5-inch, one of the things that I really noticed is that just flying the exact same rig over and over and over again really built up and locked in the muscle memory, so that when my left fingers move that throttle stick 1.42 inches, right? Which, once you do that over and over and over again, that's what generates muscle memory. When my fingers would move that exact amount, that my brain knows should produce 806.3 grams of thrust, right? The more of that muscle memory I was able to build up, the better a pilot I became. All you need to do is look at Steele Davis as an example of that, right? He is absolutely hell-bent on never changing anything, and it is no coincidence that he's one of the best pilots to ever live. So yeah, I try very hard to not change the amount of power, but having that option is a big deal, right? I do things that I almost kind of like try to make it a little bit more difficult for me to change the power, so that if I can just like fly around it, and that tends to be a better kind of situation. But it's something I'm playing around with a little bit more, and I had a really good experience with the one time that I did it recently. I don't know, well, ongoing. But I think it is actually more important to not change to figure out the amount of power initially, and just to try to leave that, right? That's my main suggestion. But then having the option is really, really nice and really, really important. Orga A says, why separate knobs? You're John Paul. Is that a lyric? Is that a John Paul lyric? Am I too white and or old to get that? Feral FPV says, what throttle percent do you like shit to hover at? I used to know that. There was a point where I figured out what my throttle hover percent was. I based it off of 5-inch, like whatever, like a 4S 2400 kV 5-inch rig on 5x4 ish propellers, right? That's kind of like in the middle of everything. That hover point always felt right to me, and I think it's around 30%. Don't quote me on that. Feral, if you message me, I will put my throttle percentage in my OSD, and the next time I go out and fly, I'll actually look it up. But I bet you it's somewhere around 30%, maybe like 35%. And then I've always tried to build. That's one of the things that when I build a micro, if it doesn't hover around that same point, I will change the mechanical system, because usually that means that there's some sort of a mismatch with propeller or motor or voltage, or something weird is going on. It almost seems too good to be true, but like every time that I've built a micro and right out of the box it flies like a 5-inch rig, that mechanical part combination has been really good. And it seems like it's too good to be true, but I really don't think that it is. I think there is some... I mean, it makes sense, right? 5-inch rigs have had the most R&D. They've had the most flight time. They've had the most emphasis from just the whole industry, including the flight software. So it just sort of makes sense, right, to then try to make everything else feel like that. And in doing so, I've had really good luck, and I've been able to build micros that fly phenomenally, that I've put in the hands of other pro pilots, and they have absolutely been like blown away that it was a micro, and just like I had no idea micros could fly like this. And that's happened time and time again. So it started at Quad Camp Atlanta 2-3 years ago, where Drew flew Drew flew pretty much exactly this rig and said that it was one of the best flight experiences he's ever had in FPV. And it's just continued through Wild Willie flying some of my stuff, Stinger Swarm, a bunch of the guys. And yeah, same kind of response every single time of like, oh my god, I didn't know this was possible. Richard says Pyrodrone's site has an Armatan Bobcat 4-inch in their store under new products. It's kind of hideous, not a Gecko 4-inch. Yeah, I just saw that the other day too. Apparently the Armatan Bobcat is the new hotness in Armatan. You know, this cat will not leave me alone. He keeps nibbling at my ankles, so he needs to be beaten. BeefTube says squishy old cat. He's actually a pretty young cat. He's only like 4 years old. He's had a hard life though. We almost lost him a couple years ago. His pancreas is just broken from birth. Very expensive cat because of that. Dauntless FPV switched to 10 on actual rates. Let's just say I usually fly at a max of 950. I realized I kind of like the really snappy snaps, though I went up to 1100. It felt the same as 950. Dauntless, are you talking about? Are you talking about your max? Those are numbers that strike me as your max rotational numbers, not the center number. But I've only ever run that center number all the way down as low as I can, so I could be totally wrong. B-Man FPV with a $10 super chat. Thank you, brother. Thanks for the insight on rates. I always feel like I'm almost dialed in. I'll give that a go. Make sure, B-Man, I know exactly what you mean about being like always feeling like you're almost there. When I had that feeling, I was moving my rates around a little bit too frequently. So I forced myself to just like wait. I don't know if this is your situation, but maybe it is. I forced myself to stop moving the rates around, and I just waited for like 3 or 4 months and just flew the same rate profile for 3 or 4 months. That was enough time for it to like embed itself in my brain so that the next time I changed the rates, like a little bit of a light bulb went off, and I was like, oh, okay. And my understanding of rates grew, and that is what allowed me to actually get them locked in. That being said, also understand the other thing that helped me figure out was the relationship between rates and PIDs. Your feed forward values and your P gain values feel like rates, because when you jam the stick over, they control how quickly the rig is going to catch up. Like when you can ram the stick over to the plastic really quickly, and if you have a shitload of feed forward and a shitload of P gain, like regardless of your rates, unless you have really low rotational rates, but usually we don't. We pretty much all have like 600 plus rotational rates, which is a lot. With a lot of feed forward and a lot of P gain, when you can move the stick fast enough I mean, all my flight footage, right? Like my rigs will still like pop a big amount of rotation, even though I have everything softened down. I have super low feed forward. I run the P gains like in the middle, and then I have super low rates. But just by the fact that you can move that stick so quickly, and then that translates to like a lot of rotational rate, you can still get like a big pop. So keep that in mind when you're dialing in your rates, because the reason why you might always feel like you're not totally dialed in might be feed forward and P gain related. So yeah, now I just made your situation way more confusing, but I had to. Dustin Gable says, digging the Neil deGrasse Tyson shirt. Thanks, brother. Yeah, this is a really awesome shirt. Neil deGrasse Tyson is a super. We don't deserve Neil deGrasse Tyson. I'll put it that way. Maniac FPV says Miatas are fucking fun. With a $5 super chat. Thank you, Maniac. Very, very cool of you. Forevermore says, was thinking about an older Miata for my kid's first car. I love that idea. Miatas are not. I wouldn't call a Miata safe. A Miata's safety is in the driver's ability to pay attention and get out of bad situations. And quite frankly, I would rather avoid a crash altogether, which a Miata will do better than anything on the road, than have a car that crashes well or has 800 airbags or whatever. At the same time, when I first started driving, I wasn't very good at it, so I feel like maybe I wouldn't have been good. The other thing I'm concerned about with that is you're gonna ruin your kid forever. Like, they're never gonna have a car that feels that good, like dynamically and like in their fingers and whatnot. So it's like it's almost like interesting. If you do that forevermore, let me know how it goes, because that's an interesting. Yeah, I don't know. My first car was a 1987 notchback Mustang, and I bounced that thing off curbs and I guess just curbs. And it was always nice that it was a little bit of a heavier car in some ways, and a more steel box. But yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting thought. I could talk for an hour about that, but I'm just gonna move on because we're coming up to 12 o'clock here. Dustin Gable says, "Love my Mazda 3S Drifter." 3S? Mazda 3S. Athix says, "LS1 Miata." I've driven quite a few LS1 Miatas. Unfortunately, the wheel wells on the Miata are not big enough to put enough tire under, unless you run like a Hoosier or a Slick. And then the chassis of the Miata is just not really strong enough to deal with the amount of torque that LS1s produce. The other thing that happens is that you have to upgrade everything. Like, yes, you can just drop an LS1 in the Miata for a couple grand and have this insane straight line thing, but it's going to be way too much power for the brakes. It's going to blow up transmissions. It's going to blow up rear differentials. There's like all these other problems. So like doing an LS1 Miata that actually works for more than like a few months costs like 10 grand. And for that amount of money, there are better cars to swap LS1s into. The correct swap for a Miata is a K series, K20, K24, F20, whatever. That is the best Miatas I've ever driven have all been either K or F swapped. Yeah, LS1 Miata is an interesting thing, but it is. It also takes a lot of the character away from the Miata. There's a character in a 4-cylinder engine that really works well and just makes sense. To then put an LS1 in it, you really lose that. LS1s are also, in my opinion, sort of the most boring motors ever built. They don't have really any character, in the same way that Toyota Corollas don't have any character. It's a weird situation where when something is really, really, really good across the board, it loses its character. And the LS1 is really, really, really good across the board. It makes power everywhere. It's reliable. It's arguably the best engine, petrol engine ever produced. And that also makes it the least interesting to drive. Every car I've ever driven with an LS1, it's just like, yeah, this is good, but like, I don't want this in my life. I want something that's worse. The Top Gear guys talk about that a lot, where like the cars that they love the most are typically awful, because that gives them like a character and that gives them a little bit of a life, right? Because people are like that. People are flawed, and it's what makes us unique little snowflakes. Carlos Buttress with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, brother. If any of you have never owned any Mazda, yeah, very true. It is very true. All Mazdas have this like beautiful DNA that the Miata has, or a 370Z Nismo R34 Mark IV Supra. Then you've never had real fun or enjoyment of any car. I cannot disagree with any of that. R34 is not really realistic. R34 Mark IV Super not really realistic at this point, unfortunately, because they're just mega money. 370Z, those are coming down in price. I don't love the exhaust note of the VQ engines, but other than that, it's a phenomenal car. Jode Pilot says 39 grams versus 19 grams in a Whoop is a difference. Personally, I love flying the lighter ones indoor. Heck, my Whoops are almost all double-sided tape. Motors are ripping around indoors. Yeah, Drone Pilot. FPV Trucker says, my drive clock ran out. Bedtime. I ordered the X-Nova motors for my micro air expelled. Thanks for the tip. You're welcome, brother. Scroll. Where are we at? Here we are. Dauntless says, with my rates, I meant I can run a higher max rate. Got it. I thought you were talking about that. Okay, good. With the center sensitivity at 10, max of 1100 feels better and more controlled than a center of 100 with a max of 950. Got it, Dauntless. Okay, cool. You know what's actually interesting is I've been kind of, when I went out and flew 3 days ago, and for whatever reason, I started thinking about maybe running a higher max rotational rate. I've always tried to keep my max rotational rate down as low as possible, so that when non-pilots watch my footage, they don't get that like vertigo weirdness of like, oh my god. We're used to that, but I don't know. I've just always liked the idea that, I just don't like when a normie watches my footage and is like, I don't know how you could do that, and they can't even watch it. Like, I don't know. On one hand, it's like, well, why would I cater to the normies? But on the other hand, like, that's like, I want my footage to be as cinematic as possible, and cinematic doesn't mean that only FPV pilots should be able to watch it, right? So yeah, I sort of oscillate back and forth between what to do there. But yeah, that's I'm right there with you, Dauntless. Ultron says, hey, what's up, Ultron? Forevermore says, I would make sure it had a wider stance, and she will know how to get out of the way. Yeah, I guess Forevermore, as long as you spend the time to, I don't know. I'm not going to get it's that would be a dream. That would be, if my first car was a Miata, that would be, that would have changed some things, and I would have appreciated lighter weight cars more. And yeah, lightweight fixes everything. Lightweight is better. Dauntless says, maybe I may have hit myself today with my 2-inch. Pinky is sliced up pretty good for a 2-inch prop. No way. I've never broken the skin with anything more than a 3-inch. So that's pretty good. Respect micros, but you don't have to really respect them that much. Like, that's one of the beautiful things about micros, and why I really think they should be everybody's first quad. Is it's easy to hit yourself or spin one of these things up in your hands, and micros are not gonna send you to the hospital typically. Although I did stupidly go to the hospital the first time one got me, but it wouldn't stop bleeding for like an hour, and I was like, that makes me nervous. And it was right next to like a tendon, so I figured, what the hell. And it was a mistake. I shouldn't have gone to the hospital. It cost $400 for them to give me a Band-Aid. But if it had like nicked the tendon, then it would have been worth going to the hospital. So I just keep telling myself that to ease the pain of a $400 Band-Aid. B-Man says, my first car was an 88 Lincoln Town car. I could get 9 people in that damn thing, and it was like a sofa on wheels. Yeah, I don't know. When I look back at my behavior as a new driver, I worry. I worry at what might have happened if it was in a Miata. It just feels like you're, just as a new driver, I don't know. It feels like it's such a new thing, and it's such, at that age, you don't understand the responsibility of it, but all kids are different. Forevermore's, sounds like daughter, well, I mean, first of all, she's female, so already she's going to be 1,000 times more mature and less dumb than us, right? So it's probably going to be totally fine. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I was just not good at it when I first started driving, and it's interesting. That's an interesting. I have no idea what the right answer is. All right, we're gonna get this thing wrapped up here. We got 6 more minutes. I'm trying to get this wrapped up right at midnight here. FinFPV says I do the same thing. Low rates for the win. Hell yeah. Dauntless FPV says F the smuggles with your skills. IMO. Forevermore says love you. I'll keep you up to date on her little Miata later, homie. Drone Pilot says LOL about watching drone footage, and we're all used to it. I watched Steele's latest video and I got illish watching it full screen. I was like, what on earth is this demon flying drones for? Yeah, I don't. I kind of have the same. I can't watch Steele stuff anymore. It's just too skateboardy for me. I 100% appreciate it for what it is, but I don't choose to watch it anymore, unfortunately. Not saying anything about him as a person, just, you know, my personal choice. I've cut down on the amount of YouTube that I watch so that I can work harder for you guys and produce more cool content. So I've had to kind of slim down on the number of people that I'm subscribed to that I watch, and that's just me. That's totally just me. Dauntless says, I agree, love micros because they're safe. Check Microbrush's Discord at the end of the stream if you want to put a pic there. All right, very cool. Ed K says, hope your back is doing well these days. Ed K hasn't been around for a while. It's been a while since my back was bothering me. Yeah, that was every couple of years I'll hurt my back, and I'll be in misery for a week or two, but then it's good to go. Good to have you back, Ed K. Go-Kart Mozart says, my first car was a 68 Bug. It was light, but I can't say it was better. Learned how to not die regularly. Yeah, an old school Beetle will give you the worst of all worlds. It'll be unreliable. Well, now that they're so old, it'll be unreliable. It will be lightweight, but it'll crash horrendously, and it won't give you any of the performance. But what's cool about it, I love the idea of your first car being awful, so that it's only up from there, right? I literally worry that as a Miata for your first car is going to forever ruin you because nothing is ever going to touch it. But why wouldn't? Here's the cool thing about Miatas: you can get one for $4,000, and then it's almost like buying a brick of gold, in that, like, just hold on to it. Like, just buy a Miata. It's small. You can put it anywhere. Just keep it. And you'll just, like, why wouldn't you always have a Miata? Like, God forbid life gets really hard, you sell it, use the $4,000 that you put into it for whatever you need, and then just get it again. And just, yeah, there's kind of no reason to not always have a Miata in your life, in my opinion. So that's the real solution, I think, is to start with a Miata and just keep it forever. License to Drive says $400 Band-Aid. That's why I like the NHS here in the UK so much. When a 5-inch prop sliced my forearm, there was no bill for fixing me up. Yeah, it's interesting how the entire rest of the civilized world has figured out how to do universal health care, but somehow it's just so difficult to figure out here in America. We just can't figure it out. It's just so hard. How is it so hard? If not the whole rest of the world, but you know what I mean. Rick Spada says, LOL, I got one that just got his learner's permit, and I'm a little scared. You guys with kids, man. Whew. Good on you guys for taking on that responsibility. I can't imagine it. Maybe it'll happen someday. But yeah, it's a lot to wrap my head around. Drone Pilot says, but I'm turning 40 in a couple months. So it is something that I've had to think more and more about, but not a topic for 11:58 at night on a Monday in an FPV stream. Carlos Podros, I had a car accident back in August. From time to time, my back hurts. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to not be involved in any serious car accidents because, man, the amount of energy involved in like big car accidents is pretty shocking, and it's lots and lots of people have like forever injuries from it. It's scary. It's really scary. Go-Kart Mozart says Suzuki Samurai threw me out of the dirt. Yeah. Suzuki Samurai. Dude, I'm gonna... Stop it! Go away! Wait, you have another half an hour, dude. I feed you at the same time every single night for years and years and years. Relax. Drone Pilot says, this is going to be the last comment of the night. Drone Pilot says, I had a car jack collapse. Oh my god, it's my nightmare. I was under the car with stands, etc., but the chassis crushed my chest, damage stirred him 35 years later. It still hurts bad sometimes. Oh god. I used to do all the work on my cars, and slowly seeing friends and just seeing jacks collapse and stuff like that, I slowly started doing less and less, and I eventually, when I was into motorsports, I was in jobs where I was making pretty good money, and I was in situations where I could afford to pay other people, and that was actually one of the big reasons is because jacks collapse, jack stands fail, and they'll kill you, like straight up. You'll die. A car falls on you in the wrong way, and you'll die. I mean, shit, car falls on you the right way, you'll die. It's legit. So use jack stands. Don't be lazy. It's a really scary thing. Don't wait until you see it with your own eyes, because it could be happening to you. But yeah, it's a real thing, and it's a very healthy fear. Like if you guys are ever getting under a car, be like, if you're fearful, good. Don't get over that fear. That is a healthy fear. And I have that now, and I still do things here and there. But every single time I'm about to go under a car, I will stop myself and do a triple check of jack stands and rock the whole thing and just look for anything that can go wrong. And I still don't like it, and it still creeps me the fuck out. And I get under there, get it done as quick as possible, and get the hell out. If you can afford it, just have somebody else do it on a proper lift. It's not worth dying. Carlos' car got totaled. Sad days, brother. It happens though. And then the actual last comment of the night is going to be Dauntless. It just got my knuckle, but still counts as breaking skin. Yeah, me too. Here and here. From 2-3-inch rigs going bananas. 12:02 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. CiottiFPV.com has a million ways that you can support me. The best way to support me is over on Patreon. $3 a month, 10 cents a day. You can get access to daily live streams. And if that's not worth 10 cents a day, I don't know what is. So get on over there. Love your faces. Thanks for hanging out. Here is some very random flying from a couple days ago. This is my... this is a glide on peanut butter jelly props. This is the first time I flew peanut butter jelly props. They were fine. They were a propeller. I don't like them as much as the Gemfan 5143s, but they were totally fine. Here you go. Thanks for hanging, people. I'll see you patrons tomorrow. Hey, also, this is session 4 footage. I bought a session 5. It ended up being a session 4, and the person sent me money back rather than me sending the camera back. So when I go out and just screw around, when the light's not good or the spot's not good, I just fly the session 4 because it does just as good of a job at giving me feedback, right? Like footage that I can watch later and tear apart and look for the problems of my tune, problems of my flying. So yeah, there's a good reason to get a session 4. It's a good frangible destructo camera, and the footage looks okay. But that's why it's 4:3, because when you put it into 1440, it's this ratio, and then you just crop high or low. Enjoy. See you guys tomorrow. Some of you. Oh, keystrokes are down. Hey guys, also on Patreon there will be podcasts of yesterday and today's streams available tomorrow or the next day. So look out for that. Later. Good night.